Hey there, campers. Welcome to another edition of the Basic Bitch Liberal Vlog. This is another one for the haters. While I've been trying to use this video series to break away a little bit from social media, it is still a form of social media, and social media is still full of haters, not just my haters, but, haters of large segments of humanity. And I think people who hate large segments of humanity are bad. And that's a paradox because haters of large segments of humanity are a large segment of humanity. So much for the tolerant left, right? My previous video on the haters got some comments on Instagram from a person, and I hope I'm pronouncing this semi-correctly, Abdu Al-Haki. I don't want to mispronounce the name because I don't want to offend people of his cultural heritage. However, he himself is an individual I don't care about offending because he can fuck right off. His first comment was, "I think homosexuality is worse than pedophilia from a pure ethical perspective. What do you think?" Now, this is obviously a fairly disgusting and despicable comment. This guy is a troll, and he knows exactly how provocative he is being. If you click on his profile, it's a guy in a Nazi uniform and some text in Arabic. I don't know if this guy is some kind of weird Islamic radical or actual Nazi sympathizer or whatever ideology he favors to filter the sick voices in his head until they eventually make sense. There's a school of thought that says don't feed the trolls, and that's probably correct, but of course I am a scrapper and compulsive troll feeder, so I responded mildly at first. I disagree. He responds, why? I respond, why are you asking me? He responds, I have no bad intention. I just want to know your views. You can ask me whatever you want. I will answer. You said you talk about your political thoughts. Why are you sus from me trying to know more? I respond, well, first of all, I think you're kind of a crazy person. Secondly, I don't do any kind of political or ethical debates via text anymore, but will be happy to make you a video. So here it is. Obviously, there's no reasonable debate to be had here, Abdu, and I don't care if you think you have no bad intentions. Fuck you, you dumb, evil piece of shit. And fuck your fake-ass pretense to civility. You wanted to know more? Now you do. There's your reasonable debate. If you genuinely believe sexual acts between consenting adults of any gender is worse than molesting children, according to any so-called ethical perspective, you're fucked in the head, and you should be ashamed to show your face in any civilized society. You probably are, come to think of it. I doubt you talk to other human beings in person much, but you should be more ashamed than you presently are. By the way, since I've been repeatedly been the target of 4th grade level homophobic insults that I've then recorded for everyone's viewing pleasure, if anyone's wondering if I actually am gay, I'd like to, I think back to how a couple of legendary badasses, Charlie Chaplin and J.R.R. Tolkien, both answered a similar question raised about them by representatives of a certain powerful European government in the 1930s, if they were of Jewish ancestry. Chaplin and Tolkien obviously gave their own answers. I could look up the exact wording of what they both said, but they both answered with a variation of, I regret to say I have not that honor. I still believe there are more good people than bad people in the world, but the internet does make it really hard to cling to that belief. There's a school of thought, and this goes back long before the rise of Trumpism. The standard left-of-center advice when dealing with people like this, as I said earlier, don't feed the trolls or don't read the comments. And this kind of avoidant strategy has always seemed like burying your head in the sand to me. And I don't think it's worked out particularly well for Western civilization. Not that the dumb flame wars I get into are useful to anyone. As I've said, I don't think they are. But I do think people like this need to be confronted with the fact that they're not the majority, frequently and forcefully. Good people spend too much time being afraid of what could happen, of what is happening, and I get being afraid. God knows, as I've previously noted, I am, as I've previously noted, an enormous physical coward. And that's rational. The Renee Goods and Alex Preddies of the world have been viciously murdered under the color of law for speaking out against injustice. But once in a while we need to remind ourselves that the numbers are on our side. There's more of us than there are of them. Fascists and bigots and bullies need to be reminded of that. They're the ones who belong in the shadows and in the gutters. They're the ones who should be afraid.